Tonight, in-flight fright.
Alaska, declaring emergency.
A door on an Alaska Airlines Boeing jet rips off the aircraft, leaving a gaping hole at 16,000 feet.
I heard like a big bang.
The cabin depressurized, forcing passengers to grab oxygen masks.
And the pilot, just by the faith of God, he got us landed.
The plane nearly new. Now the FAA taking action, grounding others just like it across the country. We'll have the latest on the investigation. Also tonight, winter storm alert. At least 40 million people along the East Coast are in the path of freezing rain, flooding, and snow. But there's an even bigger cross-country threat on its heels. That could impact travel next week. We'll have the details. It's been 3 years since the January 6th insurrection. Tonight, stunning newly released video from the deadly standoff inside the Capitol.
I'm ashamed.
And countdown to caucus.
I'm Ed O'Keefe in Iowa. As Donald Trump faces legal issues across the country, a new CBS News poll reveals whether Americans think he should appear on the ballot.
And later, rocking the boat. The program helping kids navigate life's choppy waters.
I think like the adrenaline pump you get out of it is like incredible.
This is the CBS Weekend News from Washington with Adriana Diaz.
Good evening. Adriana is off. I'm Robert Costa. Tonight, the Northeast is in the midst of the first big snowstorm of the season. A wintry mix is hitting the region, bringing snow, rain, and icy roads. Up to a foot of snow is expected along a huge stretch of the east, from Pennsylvania to Maine. But first, we begin with the investigation into an Alaska Airlines jet that had a section of its fuselage blow out mid-flight. CBS's Elise Preston is in Los Angeles with the details.
Robert, good evening. Now, the FAA is temporarily grounding and requiring immediate inspections of about 171 Boeing 737 MAX 9 airplanes after that flight's plane lost a chunk of its shell in midair, forcing an emergency landing in Portland.
Horror in the air as a plug door blew off this plane while it was 16,000 feet in the sky.
Seattle, Alaska, 1282, we just detected, we're declaring emergency, we need to descend down to 10,000.
The 171 passengers and 6 crew members on board the aircraft Friday evening were headed to Ontario, California. Videos taken from inside the plane show passengers appearing calm.
I heard like a big bang, and then I looked to my left and there's this huge chunk, part of the airplane just like missing.
There was a kid in that row who his shirt was sucked off him and out of the plane.
No serious injuries were reported.
Could this have been much worse?
If this had happened at higher altitude, the odds are it could have been a whole lot worse.
CBS News travel editor Peter Greenberg.
This still seems like an anomaly, because if it's actually a design fault with the entire fleet, you have a very serious problem.
The plane had only been in service for a couple months. Tonight, the FAA is ordering inspections of that airliner and dozens more like it.
It's going back to the assembly line itself to see what may have happened from day one on that assembly line to create a situation in which this kind of incident could occur. It's going to take some time.
Alaska and United Airlines are the only U.S. carriers that use the 737 MAX 9s. Both airlines are warning passengers to expect delays as the planes undergo inspections. Robert?
Elise Preston, thanks. Now to the snowstorm. Winter storm warnings and advisories are in place from the Appalachians to New England. People are bracing for up to a foot of snow in some parts. CBS's Nikki Dementri is in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Snow started falling here just a few hours ago, but already it's quite the wintry mess. Locals here are used to snow, but they say they haven't seen a storm like this in quite a while. Warnings went up as the snow came down across the Northeast. Big flakes fell in western Pennsylvania, and at the opposite end of the state, we found travelers surprised at the storm's intensity. Do you remember the last time it snowed?
No, not like this. It's bad.
The storm has been marching east, blanketing roads in Winslow, Arkansas, including this bridge where several tractor trailers collided. Communities in the Northeast have been preparing for days, crews readying plows and pre-treating roads.
This is their Super Bowl. They live for the big storms, and this is as big as it gets because it's our first storm, so we're kind of excited.
Boston could get a half foot of snow, and parts of New England could get double that. The storm could end a snowfall drought in several northeast cities, including New York. City streets could see an inch or more, an amount not seen for almost 2 years.
We're expecting our operation is largely going to be focused on spreading salt on every street in the city, just so that the roads don't get slippery.
Snow and rain are expected to fall through the overnight on large swaths of the Northeast.
Don't go out unless you need to go out. Stay off the roads.
Many heeded the warning, clearing supermarket store shelves ahead of time.
Milk, bread, of course, the usual. And I don't want to leave my house on Sunday if I don't have to.
Crews in the Northeast say they're grateful the storm is hitting this weekend when fewer people need to go places. But Robert, a second, even more powerful storm is expected to bring ice, snow, rain, and even strong winds from Texas to the Northeast by midweek.
Nikki Dementri, thank you. Now to the forecast. For more on what's going on tonight and next week, let's bring in meteorologist Alex Wilson from our partners at the Weather Channel.
All right, Robert. Well, first, I want to tell you about today's storm. We're getting big snow in interior parts of the Northeast. Areas like New York City, it's rain for you guys. We're going to continue to see the rain, the snow, the wind overnight and into tomorrow morning. By tomorrow afternoon, things begin to wind down. Still some interior snow for parts of the Northeast. Now, the heaviest snow focused along the I-81 corridor and points east. But again, big cities like New York and Philadelphia missing out on this one. And then the next system waiting in the wings. This is going to be a powerhouse storm. Significant severe weather along the Gulf Coast. Heavy snow, blizzard conditions possible in the plains, but very warm into the Northeast, and rain. And a lot of rain coming for areas that have just seen some snow. So there is a significant concern, unfortunately, already several days out. Tuesday into Wednesday, we could be looking at likely flooding in the Northeast.
Thanks, Alex Wilson. And weather is to blame for a deadly and massive 35-vehicle pileup on an interstate highway in California. 2 people were killed and 9 more were injured in the wrecks near Bakersfield, California. Police blame the crashes on foggy conditions. At least 18 tractor-trailers were among the vehicles involved. The U.S. Supreme Court has agreed to hear arguments next month over a decision by the Colorado Supreme Court finding former President Donald Trump ineligible for the presidency due to his conduct around the January 6 insurrection and blocking him from the state's primary ballot. CBS's Ed O'Keefe is on the campaign trail near Des Moines, Iowa tonight. Ed, good evening. Are these legal issues having an impact on Trump's campaign?
Bob, the former president continues to say he's confident that he'll ultimately prevail, and word of even more legal challenges continues to embolden his supporters in this first-in-the-nation state. On the question of whether or not he should appear on ballots across the country, a new CBS News poll out tonight shows a narrow majority of Americans would keep him on them. But you'll notice a sharp partisan divide. The poll shows 8 in 10 Democrats would take him off ballots, 9 in 10 Republicans would keep him on them. And as justices prepare for the case, Trump has issued a warning.
I just hope we get fair treatment, because if we don't, our country's in big, big trouble. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? I think so.
So, Ed, where does the race stand overall?
Well, Trump maintains a double-digit lead according to recent polls, and he's overseeing a far more disciplined, organized operation than the first time he ran here in Iowa back in 2016. His opponents are in a mad dash to finish at least in second place behind him. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley are set to spend most of next week here in Iowa, and they're both set to debate each other. They're both calling on the former president to join them on the debate stage, but he continues to refuse to do so, calling his one-time supporters turned primary opponents disloyal. Bob?
Ed O'Keefe in Iowa. Thanks. Today marks 3 years since the violent siege of the U.S. Capitol. This morning, the FBI arrested 3 fugitives wanted in connection with the attack in what's been the largest criminal investigation in American history. Tonight, in newly released video, we see Capitol police officers calmly fending off protesters as they tried to enter the House chamber, while 2 Republican congressmen admonished the rioters for what they're doing. As Scott McFarland reports, the conspiracy theories and political divisions that gave rise to January 6 persist and raise fears about the future.
The officers were outnumbered and overwhelmed by a mob, some of whom fought police with chemical spray, makeshift weapons, poles, and fists.
What stands out to you most when you think back to 3 years ago today? Oh, it's just how it came out of nowhere.
Deputy Chief Thomas Lloyd was in the thick of it.
You never forget that.
It still hangs on you.
Oh, yeah, every day. Every day.
Police repelled the siege, after which the U.S. Justice Department launched an investigation unlike any in its history.
This is not only the largest DOJ criminal investigation ever, it's probably the most successful, too.
Scott Fredrickson is a former federal prosecutor.
They have pretty much a perfect record so far in all of their prosecutions.
The feds have charged nearly 1,200 people, more than half of whom have pleaded guilty. Dozens more have been convicted at trial, including every single defendant to face a jury. Some who face charges remain fugitives, and the FBI is yet to catch whoever left live pipe bombs near the Capitol that day. As former President Trump is raising the prospect of pardons for rioters if he were to retake office.
I call them the J6 hostages, not prisoners. I call them the hostages.
Roiling tensions and enraging the family of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, who died of a stroke one day after being assaulted stopping the mob.
They broke the law. They broke several laws. They're on camera doing it. They were convicted in a court and sitting in jail because of it.
And this unprecedented investigation is about to get larger. Federal prosecutors say they expect dozens more arrests in the coming months. Scott McFarland, CBS News, the Capitol.
President Biden has accepted House Speaker Mike Johnson's invitation to deliver the State of the Union address on March 7th. The president responded to Johnson's invitation on X, writing, "Looking forward to it, Mr. Speaker." It will be Johnson's first State of the Union as Speaker and will serve as a critical platform for Mr. Biden to make his case for re-election to the country. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is en route to the Middle East again, his fourth trip there since fighting between Israel and Hamas broke out on October 7th. The State Department says Blinken is aiming to prevent the conflict from spreading while expanding humanitarian aid and reducing civilian casualties. Meanwhile, the Israeli military says it has completely dismantled Hamas's military framework in northern Gaza. CBS's Ian Lee has the latest from Tel Aviv.
Good evening, Robert. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Turkey to a Middle East in trouble. He'll be playing the role of firefighter as he tries to extinguish the conflicts popping up in the region.
The worst fighting in Israel's north in nearly 20 years risks a new war. Today, Lebanese militants Hezbollah fired more than 60 rockets across the border. Israel responded with punishing airstrikes and artillery. Hezbollah says its attack is revenge for the assassination of a top Hamas commander in Beirut this week. In Yemen's capital, Iranian-backed Houthi rebels remain defiant in the face of Washington's warning to stop attacking commercial shipping. "We will make the sea as we made the land, a graveyard for America and Israel," says this man. Today, the U.S. Navy announced it shot down a Houthi drone near multiple ships. And CBS News has learned the Pentagon is preparing plans to hit back at the Houthis, including strikes against targets in Yemen. Hamas's brutal attack 3 months ago sparked the crisis. In southern Gaza, Israeli forces advance. Their main focus now is Khan Yunis. Airstrikes pound the city. Nearby, Palestinians dig a new cemetery. The old ones are already full. Israeli troops hunt for Hamas in southern Gaza while searching for hostages. Gal Dalal attended the Nova Music Festival with his brother Guy when the militants attacked.
What is it like coming back here?
It's weird feeling.
Gal got away, Guy didn't, taken by Hamas. Time now stands still with his brother in captivity.
My brother is the whole world for me, and I will see him again, I know it.
More than 100 hostages remain in Gaza, Robert, including 6 Americans. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will likely work for their release while also pushing to get more desperately needed humanitarian aid into Gaza.
Thank you, Ian Lee. Straight ahead on the CBS Weekend News, we'll have the latest on Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin's recently disclosed time in the hospital. A place where rocking the boat is encouraged, even expected. We're learning more about Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's time in the hospital. Austin was admitted to Walter Reed Medical Center on January 1st for complications related to a prior elective procedure. CBS News has learned that the president's National Security Council and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan were unaware of his hospital stay until Thursday. During part of that time, the 70-year-old was in the intensive care unit, and his duties were partly assumed by Deputy Kathleen Hicks. In a statement, Austin said he's on the mend and takes full responsibility for his decisions about disclosure. Still ahead on the CBS Weekend News, a celebration of African American culture through the written word. A new bookstore in Florida is getting attention for highlighting Black history and culture, even as the state has curtailed the way it's taught in the classroom and even limited some books over race. CBS's Christian Benavidez has details.
In Tampa's Black English bookstore, a celebration of African American culture is also a refuge.
Every book is liberated. Set up here.
Gwendolyn Henderson is the store's owner.
When I walk into a space, I really need to see myself.
From cooking to nonfiction to
mind your business, taking care of yourself.
Henderson, a public school teacher, has witnessed the growing culture wars over books and race. Current Florida law allows parents to challenge books over perceived indoctrination, race-based teachings, sexual content, or gender identity. PEN America, an advocacy group tracking educational censorship, found more school books were banned in Florida than any other state.
Is this a response to that?
I'm a rebel, so I cannot deny that.
A complaint over indoctrination got Amanda Gorman's poem, The Hill We Climb, restricted to middle schoolers and up in one Miami-Dade public school.
We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it. I mean, people will destroy a place or a people rather than to be accepting of diversity.
According to PEN America, there have been over 1,400 cases of book bans across 33 school districts in Florida.
Troy Johnson tracks Black-owned bookstores.
Put into context for me what this bookstore signifies given what's been happening in Florida.
It's almost defiant. No Excuses is going to portray our stories and sell our books.
On the 1930 census, it has just a list of people, including my family members, and no one could read and no one could write. And that just was incredible to me.
Henderson, the only Black member of the Tampa City Council, wants others to learn their history, even if it's outside the classroom. Christian Benavidez, CBS News, Tampa, Florida.
Next on the CBS Weekend News, rocking the boat in hopes of finding calm waters. Finally tonight, the phrase rocking the boat usually implies someone is causing trouble by pushing the limits. But for some students in New York, it's about pushing through the waves of life. CBS's Jerika Duncan explains.
The adrenaline pump you get out of it is like incredible. There we go.
17-year-old Victoria Murillo sails along the Bronx River with confidence and ease.
I've seen people come out here and they're like, oh my God, this is like really scary, especially
like that right there.
I was very shy before rocking the boat, and the main thing I apply now is communication, like being assertive and like letting people know that I'm here and that I have a voice.
If you adjust your cut to that angle, then it should butt in correctly.
She's one of 900 students who have joined Rocking the Boat. It's a nonprofit organization teaching middle and high schoolers how to build boats, sail them.
There, you got it.
And the importance of protecting the water quality of the river.
Why do you have to replace the whole thing?
Adam Green founded the program 25 years ago.
I started this as a volunteer project when I was in college, and so this is still my first job out of college. It's changed a whole lot.
It's located in one of New York City's poorest neighborhoods in the Bronx, which is on purpose, says Green, who always envisioned working with underserved youth.
Where does that come from?
In me, I guess it comes from my parents. I was very fortunate to have parents who were always focused on equity, on trying to allow everybody to have opportunities.
33-year-old Juan Pablo is the director of sailing.
What is your hope for these children that you're interacting with on a regular basis?
We want kids to come through here and learn about themselves and what they want to do in the future, set up goals for the future. So our hope for them is to be able to become better people. Sailing and environmental education and boat building are just a mechanism to get them there.
Okay, ready to tack?
All right, ready?
And by the looks of it, students like Victoria Murillo are headed in the right direction. Sharika Duncan, CBS News, New York.
And that's the CBS Weekend News for this Saturday. I'm Robert Costa in Washington. Thanks for watching. Good night.